All right, here we go. Literally the title this time, but we'll see probably tonight or this weekend. But let's get everything up and started first. Mute myself, edit video, get in here, over here, over here. Monetization on, even though it's going to get shut off pretty quickly. Actually, to my surprise, these last few have not been demonetized, which is a bit weird. But come in here, dismiss, set that to live chat, and that should be everything we need for the moment. In that regards, at least, then we pull up everybody's favorite nemesis to do business with, Google Earth. Come on, Google, you got this. Well, Azerbaijan's pretty close to one of the focus areas, so good enough job, I guess. Twitter, obviously. Adopt these unwanted cats, especially the senior ones. If you live near there and you can. No, we don't want profile. We want, I forgot Elon hit it. We want bookmarks. Bookmarks is what we want. Okay, I forgot. Is there a way to make that stay up while I'm actually in a site? I don't think so. I'm just gonna have to click on it. That is on live chat. Okay. And, oh, wait, we do have people. 5. All right, that's pretty close to enough. I say I'll wait like a minute. So let me chug some water real fast, and then I'll start going into everything. And see if Josh shows up. I texted him, but he's been having power issues over in his part of the area. We live in the same area since I'm kind of stranded down here ever since 2020. But over in his area, I guess they were having power issues. We didn't really have any with the storm or anything. All right, so things might be heading for it now. So there are so many things in here. I realized. Well, I managed to land on it, but the IDF is calling up reserves again, just like they did after October 7 when they were preparing for the Gaza invasion. So now, yeah, it looks like they are actually doing the full ensemble assembly and getting ready to actually invade southern Lebanon, as also evidenced by the massive obliteration campaign they have started. Like I said, there's so many things here. I have to make sure I stop on the right ones. Like here, some these, and again, I wasn't going to bookmark hundreds, so I only bookmarked like a few dozen. But here's some more footage from other ones. That was Mexico stuff. That's economic stuff. That's AI stuff. There's some more. That's more of a map of airstrikes. There's some more stuff. That's in Russia. There's some more stuff from Lebanon. So this was just the last few nights. Israel really is going like into an actual pre-invasion air campaign, or what you would expect of one. As remember, they for a couple months they were doing like 1 or 2 bombings or airstrikes per night, up until a few weeks back when they started doing like a dozen per night. Now, for the last week, they have suddenly gone full ham, and they've been doing at minimum 200 each night. Like one night was 210, another night was 290, another night was 350. I think the lowest one that I remember was like only 180 in a single night. And they've already done like 100 tonight so far. So they've been bombing like everything in sight across southern Lebanon. So this is like the actual preeminent indicator now. This is like flipping into this is flipping into like a invading Lebanon equivalent of the pre-invasion air campaign in Iraq. So they are absolutely going for it. This has kind of sealed that deal. And also, as of today, they bombed a. I'm about to sneeze. I apologize. I apologize to everyone. They bombed the bunker of Nasrallah, the sort of spiritual leader of Hezbollah, I guess. They had an actual regular military commander. The IDF killed him. They also killed the second in command and the third in command, and like a lot of people down the chain. That's been part of their lead up strategy as well. But they also killed uh, this dude, Nas Hassan Nasrallah. Okay, you're not going to give me a picture. You're just going to show the stuff. Yeah, this dude, and that's copyright. What about this one? Well, Wikipedia is usually open source. But yeah, so Lebanese epic beard man, I guess, is Nasrallah, the sort of uh, spiritual leader of Hamas, I get, or of Hezbollah, quote unquote, as opposed to the military commander. Uh, but he's now also dead. And once again, if Google Earth wants to cooperate, you're going to cooperate, Google Earth? No, we're not going to cooperate. Oh, now we're going to cooperate. Okay. So, as of a few hours ago, the leadership in Iran has called a emergency meeting of their military officials and the Revolutionary Guard. So they supposedly are planning their response. This would be like the fourth thing that they're supposedly going to launch an attack on Israel directly for. Although, again, they have now backed out of three out of four things. The first one, they did back up. They did launch that wave of 300 ballistic missiles back in April. However, we've gone for about 2 months now, over the course of which they've claimed uh, like three different additional things they were going to retaliate for, and the closest they came was like bringing out some missiles and setting up, but then they stopped and drove the missiles back into the underground like bunkers in the mountains. So they keep backing out, which is gradually losing them credibility with the broader anti-Israeli crowd abroad. So they they're constantly putting the percentage in a further lean towards not doing anything. But this is a new thing. This would be in total number 5. If they fail to back up this threat, this would be failure number 4. But this will be incident number 5 that they have promised, a divine retribution against Israel for. So once again, we'll see if they actually do another ballistic missile wave. But as I've said before, the hold off might be coming from the fact that they probably realize what I suspect as well, which is that no matter what size of attack they launch, the IDF is going to immediately respond with a air campaign against Iran anyways. because back during the retaliation for the April strike, the IDF uh, launched several air-launched cruise missiles into Iran via eastern Iraqi airspace, using obviously the stealth aircraft, their F-35s, which they also used to take out all of the AD and early warning radars that the IRG has across Syria, which again, you would only need to do that if you intended to send at some point a lot of non stealth aircraft over that area. Which, if you were going to do that, then that would imply that you intend to carry out some kind of air campaign that requires a lot more than just your dozen or so F-35s. So Israel does have a couple hundred combat jets, but most of them are F-15s and F-16s, which are not invisible to radar like the F-35 is. So taking out those radars across that area implies that they intend to use the bulk of their air force for something, which I would assume they're waiting for the like grenade pinhole to be Iran launching another ballistic missile wave. And I figure Iran probably at least suspects that, if not knows that itself. And that's probably a large part of the reason why they're cowarding out constantly. And uh, the uh, the U.S. is likely doing a no holds barred whatsoever in regards to Israel's intended like severity of reprisal, if that is the case, because behind closed doors they probably made the agreement that uh, we won't like do anything or say anything. You can launch however much or whatever you want, as long as you also, apart from the nuclear sites, as long as you also take out uh, the various the various production sites they're using to give stuff up north across the Caspian Sea to Russia as well, which uh, the IDF has no issue with doing that or complying with that because they are probably intend to smash literally everything in sight anyways. So most of those items probably would have already been on the target list regardless. But the invasion into southern Lebanon, that is pretty much locked in now. You don't start this mega ultimate asteroid impacts bombing campaign unless you're going to do that. But like we already said, you also don't remove the minefields along your border unless you intend to move forces across your border. So that is ongoing. And in response to the increased massive hundreds of bombings every night, Hezbollah has been firing rockets, massive rocket waves into Israel every night. A lot of them, the regular ones that are landing in the restricted to the northern region. However, they have actually started wasting through their longer range unguided rockets, the big ones that kind of need to ride in the bed of a pickup truck. And those are the ones that reach down to like Nazareth or down to Haifa, sometimes all the way down to Netanya. And they have hit a few things. They have actually killed a few people this time, but primarily, again, because they're primarily using unguided rockets, they've mostly hit like random stuff, sometimes the middle of the road, sometimes the parking lot. But they have killed a few people. But yeah, well, so that's 200, yeah, 250 aircraft on September, or that would have been September 23rd, actually. The night of September 23rd was a 251. And in the midst of this, also, Iran supposedly insisted they're ready to resume nuclear negotiations. Not sure how much weight to actually put on that, but another sign of potential back out. Uh, more airstrike stuff in Lebanon. More airstrike stuff in Lebanon. Uh, huge airstrike. Obviously, you can see there in Lebanon. That's Algeria economic stuff. That's for another time. That's actual airstrike video. And here's just some of the various like rocket inbound area alerts in Israel during the firebacks. This is mass evacuation from southern Lebanon. More airstrike stuff. More teenagers gradually destroying the Russian military from within Russia, but that's a funny story for the second half of the stream. Uh, was there any more of the rocket stuff? This was no. That's more airstrikes within Lebanon. More airstrikes within Lebanon. Within Lebanon, where is? Well, there. Okay, there's some of the Iron Dome launches intercepting a lot of rockets. There's another one of the things of rocket alerts. That was from back on the 22nd. And this is reaching all the way down past the Sea of Galilee. So that was Hezbollah using their longer range, larger unguided rockets, and uncertain, but they have likely gone through somewhere between 500 and 1,000 over primarily over just the course of this week. And that's out of about 5,000 that they have, or that we're reasonably confident that they have. So uh, they've blown through about 10 to 20% of them this week. They've also probably lost some number of them in the airstrikes on various like storage locations that the IDF has been carrying out. But they have way more of the regular smaller unguided rockets, the Hamas type rockets. So most of the stuff being taken out would probably be in that category. But they have also the IDF has also been taking out some of the launcher vehicles because the Iranian suicide drones, the Shahed drones, have to launch from this special uh, this like launcher truck thing that has a set of like trays. It looks like a catering dolly or whatever that they like roll out of kitchens in Subway, and they have the different shelf levels on it with the different shelves of bread. It kind of looks like that, and each shelf fires off its drone like 1 second after the other one. So they've taken out a lot of those launcher vehicles as well. So that's going to be giving Hezbollah drone launching ability issues. As for like how long this is going to carry on before the actual ground invasion starts, I cannot say. I would assume it's going to be a few weeks because they just started the mass reservist call up. So that's going to take a bit to get ready at minimum, but they are probably going to be doing it in the near to immediate future, since because it's the Middle East, it would be better. Unlike in Europe, the history of doing like winter stuff in Europe and having your armies freeze to death, in the Middle East, it would be better to do stuff in winter when temperatures would only be like 80 degrees Fahrenheit as opposed to 100 plus or 120 in some cases, and your army would die of heat exhaustion. So that's probably, again, now thinking back on it retroactively, the reason they skipped out on doing it during the summer, because that the heat would end up being an issue there. So that whole thing is currently ongoing. Israeli officials have now publicly said that they're going to war. That's not news. We already knew that. We knew exactly where this was heading. Like you had to have been blind not to really see where this was going. But the we'll see part is predominantly on whether it is just going to be the IDF invading southern Lebanon and going to war with Hezbollah, or whether Iran is actually going to try to uncorner itself and actually launch a like retaliatory ballistic missile wave, which it's kind of looking less and less likely, like I said, since I'm I'm reasonably sure that they know that the IDF, the Air Force portion of the IDF, will do a like full air campaign against Iran if they actually launch another one, since there would have been literally no other reason to take out that line of early warning radars if Israel only intended to continue carrying out like one or two random strikes against Iran using F-35s. So taking those out implies you intend to use the broader portion of your Air Force that is not radar invisible. And now, apart from airspace being shut down, everybody, US, UK, Australia, China, Qatar, the Persian Gulf countries, everybody has been rapidly now trying to pull all of their citizens out of Lebanon before the actual ground combat starts. So we will watch that as that transpires as well. Anybody there? Uh, nope, nobody else. Or wait, no Josh either. No, just Matty. Nope, just Matt. No Josh. Josh is dead, I guess. And oh, we only got five. God, I guess Friday really is not the best day to do the stuff. Hold on, let me chug some water. Before going up to Ukraine and Russia, nothing else really new elsewhere, too much at least. North Korea stopped doing the whole cross border sewage balloon stuff. So either they ran out of balloons or they got bored and they weren't getting enough attention, or at least not as much as they wanted. China's just continuing with the regular daily like coastal flybys of about a dozen combat jets per day, continuing with the whole routine familiarization and terrain recognition practice. And force assembly, we are, like I said, we're well beyond the point where force assembly would have begun and have been noticed if it was going to happen this fall. So we're past the point of this year, which this year, again, was the kind of like a 50-50. Next year would be their best choice. They could still wait further for a third amphibious transit fleet to be constructed, but it would be too long because that wouldn't be finished until 2027. And by then, we would have given Taiwan too much stuff or too much modern stuff, and it would just tip too badly. So, their best chance of succeeding is to go next year, next fall, specifically because, like we say each time, the waters in the Taiwan Strait are the most calm during the fall months of the year. During the fall months, a trip across the strait would take only like 6 or 7 hours, whereas during other portions of the year, it would be more like 10 or even more than 10 hours. And someone's riding their obnoxiously loud motorcycle outside because they want to get noticed. Oh, also, on that, before we switch over to stuff, again, so much stuff has happened. I have to scroll down looking for it. Actually, wait, no, I think that was it. Was that it? Yeah, that was it. So, no, I don't want the article. I want the image. You're not going to make it any bigger, are you? All right. So, uh, the fun part about satellite surveillance is that we watch stuff happening all the time. It's kind of how we we know, how much, new stuff Russia actually is able to cough out from its constantly catching fire for some reason, factories and sending out. Because unlike Russia, we actually have a functioning spy satellite network. But in other theaters, we've observed something interesting recently, and that is China was developing a new modernized attack submarine for combat, and something went wrong in their testing, and it sank to the bottom of the river as it was being tested out here. And so now these are salvage floater cranes that are trying to raise it up from the bottom. So since it's it's just a river, they actually can get it from the bottom. It's not like the uh, loss that they tried to cover up. From sometime in the last year, I think it was, that actually went down like in the ocean and is thus like down way at the seafloor. That they're not getting that one back. But this one we actually got hard confirmation of with our own eyes, and this was one of their newer ones. But something went wrong, and it's at the bottom of the river now, or they might have managed to raise the wreck up of it. So unknown whether it was a crewed testing with like crew on board or not. Unknown as well. The other worry is, yeah, like this guy says, the other worry is we don't know whether it actually, uh, we don't know whether it actually had like nuclear fuel on board when it sank, and if so, we, don't know whether the emergency system actually like jammed the kill rods or control rods in and sealed the vessel or not, the reactor vessel I'm referring to. So that's a potential issue for that river in China if it was loaded with fuel and if the failsafe thing did not seal the reactor in complete shutdown, then that's going to potentially be an issue either for the river itself or if they manage to get the whole sub out. Then it's kind of obviously going to be an issue for those being sent in to deal with it and disassemble it. So that's a thing that happened. And I feel like I'm going to sneeze again any second. So be wary of that. Also, we had another epic fail on Russia's part this time. Granted, I know that's not exactly news, probably, but let's scroll down and find it, since again, there's like a billion things. So much started happening this week. Come on. Where are we? Where are we? Is that? No, that was Tunisia. Uh, nope, not there. There we go. So, uh, Russia's Russia was testing their new like uber hyped death to the west super nuclear ballistic missile, intercontinental ballistic missile, a modernized one meant to carry nuclear warheads. There were thankfully no actual nuclear warheads on this when it was tested, but it sort of just exploded in silo. So it doesn't really work. But yeah, this is the Sarmat. I think is the one they also nicknamed Satan. And uh, despite proclaiming themselves or rather, sorry, the Russian government proclaiming themselves to be defending Christianity, they named their new nuclear missile Satan, and they literally had a ceremony. I don't know if you guys remember that from like a year and a half ago, where they brought in priests to bless their missile that is literally named Satan. So this is some funny all these squares make a circle logic. And also scroll back up to it before we get to the actual like bigger stuff. For the second time, the Russian military has now lost one of its transport helicopters to the deadliest force on Earth, teenagers. Literal middle school students have now twice, on two separate occasions, uh, got on to like Russian helicopter airfields, helipads, and burned out Russian helicopters. So I'm waiting for number three. I'm really waiting to see if this becomes a pattern. If because if instead of like militarily Putin ends up getting undone by like Gen Z of all things, if you get brought down by Zoomers, that's kind of like that's something you don't come back from, even in the afterlife. Okay, so onwards from that, you guys remember just before the last stream, Ukraine had launched a drone swarm at one of Russia's large storage sites up here, where stuff was stored like artillery shells, rocket artillery for MLRS launchers, and some of the, old ancient ballistic missiles they got shipped in from North Korea. Well, also, soon after that, one straight next to it, was also hit, and another one right down here. If the person wants to cooperate, do you feel like cooperating? There we go. Thank you. In Voronezh, I forgot the precise location within Voronezh. Or wait, hold on. Was it Voronezh? That's the one up into there. It was Voronezh, right? Is that no? That's Kirchbridge stuff. Uh cigarettes. Yeah, I think that should be the one. No. Oh, for Google. That is. Oh no, sorry, not Voronezh. Krasnodar. It was in Krasnodar, which is down here. So that one was hit as well. We expand here. You can see all goes out, burning, burning, burning. And then, no, what? Stop taking me back to the top each time. Business buildings, Lebanon and Israel, Lebanon and Israel. Oh, yeah, the Hungarian revealing of their true colors. So, I love Magyar or Magyarul as a language. I love the Hungarian language. However, Hungary, to any Hungarians or Magyar people watching, there is a reason why I love Polska as a country and as a people much more. Because every time Polska gets invaded and conquered by someone, their corpse rises from the dead moments later, and like the Imperial Guard in Elder Scrolls Oblivion, screams, "I'm just warming up, you pathetic worm," and proceeds to, from the inside, begin doing epic Warsaw uprising stuff. Whereas Hungary, whenever you guys get beat down by someone, you just bend down and willingly tie the leash around your own neck. And now you're just smiling and openly, saying, "Yeah, and we would do it again. We would surrender if we were invaded." Awesome, awesome ally to have. Awesome mentality to have. Wonderful, wonderful, and a mentality that the back over here apparently, supposedly tough Donald Trump also shares because he's gone mask off now. Not that he was really wearing one, but at one of his more recent interviews or speeches, he flat out said that even the worst deal would have been better than fighting for Ukraine. The worst deal of which was complete, like, subjugation and erasure of existence, because that is what Putin flat out said in the whole, imperial restoration rambly thing, both the essay and his actual televised speech about it. Like, the whole erasure of the separateness of Belarus and Ukraine from Russia is, like, clearly, at least was the primary initial aim of the imperial restoration thing, because those two he could get away with pretty easily if it had gone his way. So Trump is now in favor of uh, countries surrendering when they get invaded by somebody, and the rest of U.S. conservatives are just constantly agreeing with anything he says. So the U.S. right has now abandoned its prior stance that it held throughout the Cold War and afterwards. However morally duplicitous they may have been, one of the things was supposedly standing up for freedom. He who trades freedom for security or peace, deserves neither. And so, that was like, and they idolized Reagan for the longest time. And this, hurts personally because my dad, as much as I consider it idolatry, he also idolized Reagan as well. But now he has switched over to Trump, who has literally now become anti-Reagan. So this is like the opposite of what U.S. Republicans were for decades, because Reagan was not a you should surrender when you're bullied person. And yes, even when facing a nuclear power, because he did. And, his approach to everything was usually, when dealing with someone hostile, no matter how powerful the person was, let's see, Reagan's approach was like giving up, right? No, it was always try it, I dare you, and balls to the wall. But now the, commonly perceived as more like militaristic, more aggressive of the two U.S. parties up until recently has now switched over to just, just capitulate, just give up, which is, it's just awesome, awesome mentality to have, awesome, amazing. And also the whole historical revisionist thing, and blinders on, where apparently it was Russia, according to Trump, that won World War II, as opposed to it was the entire world that won World War II, which Russia was a part of, although it was not. On a fair bit of outside help for that. And although they will point out correctly, they built a lot of stuff like their aircraft themselves. Where did that aluminum come from? Because everyone looks at the vehicles that were shipped. No one looks at the raw materials. And, where was that aluminum coming from? Oh, wait, it was coming from us. We were giving you that aluminum that you then used to make those aircraft. And even those in Russia who want to do historical revisionism and, Stalin was great, Stalin was awesome, Stalin can do no wrong. The leader you're like retroactively idolizing, that he directly said himself a quote that you can find pretty easily, although you'll probably just assert it's fake. He directly himself said at one of the meetings that the he said he literally said from his own mouth, America is an incredible industrious country without whose help we certainly would not win. That was Stalin. That was from Stalin's own mouth. Okay, you can't hide from this. So apart from acquiescing all World War II credit to Russia, it's also ignoring all of Russia's losses. Like, that's what Russia does. They win wars. They beat Hitler, they beat Napoleon. They beat Napoleon one time. They lost the other three times. Just conveniently forget that. They also lost in Afghanistan, like everyone does. They also lost to Chechnya. They lost to their own rebellious state once. And they also, let me see. Oh, yeah, they lost to Poland. They lost to an incredibly weak Poland in the 1920s. They lost to Germany in World War One. Although on Twitter, they are really, really, really hamming up the historical revisionism attempts to pretend that that did not happen and that they, did not give up basically the Baltics and a lot of Belarus and Ukraine after their whole failure on their front. They also at one point lost to Denmark of all things. They lost to the Ottomans quite a few times. They lost the Crimean War. Uh, not the modern Crimea thing, the Crimean War back in the 1850s. They, got it handed to them by Japan in 1905. So, this is a list that doesn't have the wins slated in its favor. So, I'm really, really, really disappointed with all this. And, I can't or won't ever actually like say anything to my dad, uh, because I know he would like psychologically like react. He'd react with like the knee jerk psychological defense mechanism of, oh well, I know he's wrong about that, but I just like him for the other stuff. Despite horrendous issues with the other stuff as well. But that's a subject for another time also. So that stuff was struck, and there. Oh, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, there was another like haphazardly gathered together group of vehicles that attempted a charge in Kupiansk. As apart from the motorcycle and moped brigades, they are managing to like cobble together enough stuff to try big like actual vehicle assaults. However, as it has not been for a while, it has now become, it's not like organized like armored battalions or anything. It's like basically throw together hodgepodge of like, here's some tanks, here's some ancient BMP ones, here's some MTLB amphibious river crossing vehicles, and here we'll stack 20 dudes on top of it, and yeah, you'll all get like blown to pieces if the slightest explosion happens near you. But just charge, make that charge, and if you make it back, you'll get paid. You'll get paid that that 3 million ruble bonus or whatever that you got promised. It's totally real. You'll totally get it. It's not gonna get stolen by your commander or anything, and also you're totally gonna survive. So they did manage that one. infantry and motorcycle charges. And I'm going to scroll down real quick to not have it on the screen for as long as possible. But there, scroll past it, see collection of bodies. That's one like collection of bodies example of what how the infantry charges, tend to end. Because again, for the 1 millionth time, infantry meat wave charging does not work in present day unless you're not facing opposition. Then it will work. But if you're facing opposition, even in the basic form of automatic weapons, which have existed since World War One, then the whole infantry charge does not really happen, which is, kind of why things like froze on the fronts on World War One, at least where they were able to actually like set up machine gun positions and stuff. Over here, everyone was doing like early versions of like bike riding and like roving around on like rickety, Ford Model T looking trucks. But when you tried to, this is where we first learned, those of us who are capable of learning, this is where we first learned if you charge at, a locale and there are like automatic weapons there, not even accounting the artillery, the charge doesn't work because everybody just dies. But we're also up to, uh, in order to like gain more recruits, supposedly still receiving like actual recruits. We're up to now Moscow having to offer 6 times the average annual salary as like a like waving like a cash wad to actually like get people to come in. That's likely going to tick up as things keep going. As we've seen, the pattern this year has basically been every 2 or 3 months it has to get upped a bit more to like another factor or two of the like average regular salary. So at some point soon that's probably going up to like 7 or 8 times the average annual salary being offered on part for people to sign up. And uh, on the back on the Hungary Poland comparison, also Poland versus U.S. conservative comparison. Polska over here, the absolute gigachads, unkillable gigachads that they uh, are it's a declaration for the moment, but it is one that I would put 120% money on. Uh, they have said if everyone else kind of actually like pulls away, and if like Trump pulls the U.S. away, and things start to tip badly, and Russia actually starts like sweeping across and doesn't just do the stop at Donbass and use that as a victory excuse thing. If Russia actually tries to just resume like a sweep, or if they try anything with the with like Ukraine's nuclear plants, Polska is just going to go in on its own and take over the mantle of the whole balls to the wall, guns blazing thing. And I absolutely believe them, as they've actually done such things before. Uh, where am I looking? Here? Yes, here. Oops, that was the bodies again. That was the other stuff. That was the oh yeah, that was a F-16 that crashed on technical malfunction back in 2019 in Washington, which Russian embassies are retweeting as like a loss on Ukraine's part somehow. And I think that is a in large part, it's I might be forgetting something going on. Uh, no, in terms of like, can the president remove the U.S. from a alliance or from some kind of international agreement? He can't just do it. Uh, it depends on what level of, oh, there everybody is. It might, okay, maybe it was just because I started a bit early, but I have a call to be in at 7, so I do apologize. That's why I started early. You do have to get actual other support, uh, but it depends on, depending on what you're doing. You can get that. Enough. He did get enough to pull out of the Paris climate agreement, but not enough for some other things. So no, you can't just unilaterally leave. If he got if he got Congress to vote in his favor, that would happen. I'm not I'm not positive what the whole leaving a treaty or leaving an alliance would fall to. Uh, I think that would be the two-thirds rule, but it might only be the 51% votes rule. And as to whether as to whether the military would actually stop, uh, yes and no. Uh, covertly, covertly, he would probably be told what presidents nowadays probably tend to get told, which is most likely no. Military decisions are the decision of the military command staff. You don't get to make like super. You don't get to make like super rash strategic reversals. At least not immediately, and not unless the military command staff like perceives there's a broad desire for such at large. But he could like block the direct U.S. aid. He could refuse to sign off on stuff. However, again, because of the checks and balances thing, he can only do that to something twice. If Congress passes it like multiple times, on the third time, it would just go through and it wouldn't matter if he said no or not. Also, though, uh, other players, like for all his other faults, okay, for all his other faults, I am not saying that I like Macron. For all his other faults, Macron gets 1 point in that he is not like cowing down. He is actually, in this regard, in like facing Russia regard, he has actually had multiple Giga Chad moments. So certain other players, uh, and even the UK as well, Germany to a lesser extent, but they would be willing to financially do stuff. And Polska, and these boys up here, since they have money, they don't have a lot of weapons to give themselves, but they do have money. They Other players would, you know, buy stuff for themselves, quote unquote, even if the US like did a huge cutoff. They would place orders and buy a bunch of, new US military equipment from US arms manufacturers. And then that would end up with Ukraine. They would just do that way. uh, and the actual like U.S. command staff in the Pentagon would by all means be or actually has probably by all means already like behind closed doors set up that arrangement in case the Trump stuff does happen, because this is a strategically important thing. Having this not again uh, misinterpretation on Russia's behalf is our strategic desiring of the actual like political collapse on the map of Russia. No, we honestly, again, as a strategic apparatus, as the U.S. is operating, that we could care less about. You can keep the landmass. What what the U.S. like strategic goal clearly is, and I described this in that if there is an end game stream, and I called it part of Operation Final Establishment. What the goal clearly is via proxy to basically whittle Russia down and uh, have them gray out, as opposed to blacking out, which is where you go unconscious and you disappear completely. Graying out is where you're beyond the functional point and you are effectively a non-actor and a non-threat. They'll still always have the nukes, but if you get them to gradually, as they have done, throw away the rest of their regular military, then eventually you can cause them to sort of be grayed out on the map. Where on the map, instead of red as adversarial, you could color them over to gray, as in they're not green, they're not blue, whichever color you would call like U.S. and associated friendship circle. They're not green, they're not blue. They could be in the future, but certainly not now, and not throughout most of the post WW2 era either. But you could, after the end result of this, color them gray, which would just mean they're still kind of adversarial politically, but they're no longer a legitimate threat. They've been turned into a non-threat or a non-actor, which is the same end goal that the U.S. like strategic decision making circle, whoever that's comprised of, behind the closest of closed doors, whether Pentagon command staff plus CIA department heads, whoever. Uh, the idea is to at the very least gray out the primary designated, circling them here, malactors or adversarial military actors. Two of which are much stronger than one of the others, although the strength level of one of the two formerly strong ones is rapidly depleting. But uh, while the probability of implosion, of actual fragmentation and collapse, of something like, for example, did I did I move that in here? Yeah, I did. Okay. For example, like something like, I don't know, this happening. The possibility of something like this happening is something that's factored in. That potentiality is accepted. That would come with its own issues and risks, but those would have to be dealt with when they arise. Uh, in terms of like other considerations, China would much more likely hold together like as a unit, minus Tibet's probably breaking away. and Hong Kong like becoming kind of a Singapore-esque like independent city state again. But largely, China would be much less likely to actually politically, like geopolitically, fragment than Russia would. Uh, Iran is also kind of on the whole likelihood of like fragmentation because partially also they're already having a whole like secessionist thing going on down in Balochistan. Uh, Azerbaijan, is after that portion of northwest Iran where the Azeris live. At the very least, the Kurdish portion would want to be semi-independent and unite with the like Kurdish portion of northern Iraq, which is semi-independent within Iraq. But fragmentation politically is like not the aim. Graying out the threats is like the actual aim. The possibility of like implosion, political fragmentation is accepted, obviously, because there's no way to like actually eliminate that risk. And the only one that's not actually like on the graying out shopping block is North Korea, because from the whole strategic standpoint, we likely consider them or would consider removing them as a threat to be way more trouble than it's worth, and are just going to wait for whatever civil war eventually comes when the infighting starts after Kim Jong Un, also known as Rocket Man, also known as Fatty, dies from like heart disease or something in a few years, because he's in his 40s now, and he's also like 3 bills is the slang term for being over 300 pounds. I think they do like PR stunts and try to claim he's like only 220 or something. But he's pretty chunky, so he's gonna end up going from heart disease kind of young, and there's gonna be some infighting when that happens because a fair portion of the military likes his sociopathic sister and wants her to take over. However, the portion that's loyal to him, he has had them, like swear their blood oath to put his daughter in charge, who's currently like 12 or 13. So, that would be interesting if he like drops dead of a heart attack tomorrow. But either way, whether, tomorrow or whether years in the future, they've kind of arranged themselves now to a point where they're going to have infighting and possibly even a civil war when when that curtain inevitably draws. But even if not, they like self isolate anyways. So in the long term, we'd be kind of content with just like leaving them over there. Just like how, ironically, Russia, we were actually perfectly fine with you. And, you know, you didn't want to like really join the friendship like party, so to speak. That was fine. We were fine, like letting you sit over there. You just wanted to sit there and like sell gas and oil. That's fine. You can do whatever you wanted. You wanted. We even tried like a whole relationship restart even after you were doing the whole oppression and like rights removal stuff. We actually like didn't care because Sakartvelo down there is not on a strategic priority list, and we were actually kind of fine with the Crimea thing in the beginning. But uh, the issue on the like public political front seems to be this like constantly perceived like idea that like the whole world is just like always like plotting against Russia, and everybody's just going to like Zerg rush into Russia at a moment's notice. But like you know Russia can't really handle the idea that nobody like cared, like no one actually cared until this happened. Like no one was like actually really thinking about Russia on a daily basis, except for politicians, obviously. But like the people of the West were not like, you know, twiddling our fingers together sinisterly, like thinking about like destroying Russia until the invasion of Ukraine and Russia kind of presented itself as a threat that needs to be kind of removed. So, you know, at least on this the at least on the front of the Russian political apparatus, it seems like there's some kind of factor there of like, maybe being unable to handle the idea that no one's thinking about you, which ironically would be similar to North Korea, actually, since that's why North Korea constantly does random insane stuff to try to get attention back. But for Putin himself, uh, he did actually want to like restore at least a portion of the Russian Empire, predominantly based on also that victory speech that Russian TV like broadcasted just 3 days after the invasion, which is kind of where the whole "we Russia would win in 3 days" meme came from. So someone in their like public broadcasting thing never actually like told them, "Hey, don't broadcast that thing. The conflict isn't over yet." And on night 3 of the invasion, it's still broadcasted, and you know, kind of gave away the whole gist here, which was, basically invade, sweep Ukraine. No need to invade Belarus because Belarus already like has Russia's leash around its neck willingly, and then Belarus and Ukraine would just be dissolved, and there would be, not the old Russian Empire, because maybe Putin is aware enough to know he wouldn't be able to like pull off the rest of that in his remaining lifetime, even if he had a military that was as strong as he previously thought it was, and as strong as we honestly previously thought Russia's military was. Because, we legitimately thought they were actually like on par with us. And, that was kind of proven false. Granted, there was plenty of evidence, that that was false, previously, but the whole, you know, Cold War, hype up was still generationally lingering with us over here. So we still kind of perceived it that way. And then the illusion fell apart. And now Russia is doing the whole like bonsai charging with some of the ancient vehicles that they would have been using in the earliest days of the Cold War. Since now, a better chunk of these vehicles showing up on the front line are from the 60s and 50s, and some of the artillery pieces are actually pieces that were built in the early 40s and late 1930s. We have actually reached that point now. So the meme of T-37 shows up when still continues. Haven't seen it yet. Maybe we'll see some of the old like Katyusha launcher trucks at some point, but not just yet. Uh, Elsewise, oh yeah, okay. I remembered, but I forgot when I said that was almost it, but I forgot something. I remember. So this is the same threat they made to Qatar, but in their like Revolutionary Guard meeting and at their like public speech or whatever after the IDF assassinated Nasrallah yesterday, uh, Iran did pledge that apart from taking revenge on Israel, which this is the fifth time they've said that. They've only, backed up once, and that was the first one. They've said that uh, when things get going, they're also going to launch huge missile strikes on Qatar. And just recently, just today, they also announced that they're going to launch strikes on the UAE. They're going to strike Dubai, and they're going to strike Abu Dhabi, and they're going to like strike their oil fields and stuff. So they're expanding the umbrella of their, like, you know, people they're including in their targets of revenge ballistic missile barrages. However, again, we're at 3-1. One threat they backed up, the first one, and the last three threats they have not backed up. Primarily, I think, because again, the last three took place after Israel wiped out those early warning radars in Syria, which indicates that they would kind of send the better chunk of their air force that way to launch standoff cruise missiles into Iran in a massive air campaign if Iran launched any degree of like missile strike towards Israel directly. But they've expanded the umbrella of who's going to be on the receiving end of their revenge. So we'll see if that happens. It might, I think it would start tonight because, this would be Shabbat. But no, just looks like more strikes by the IDF in Lebanon, some rocket fire alert, more strikes in Lebanon. All right, yeah, it would be plastered if there, it would be nothing but up and down this page if they had like actually started launching ballistic missiles tonight. 2:37 p.m. Alaska time is 3, no, 1 a.m. Jerusalem time. Hold on. For Tel Aviv time, yeah, 1:37 a.m. All right, so there's a few more hours of window tonight when they would theoretically do it, uh, because they, like everybody else, would want to launch the attack while the market is closed, and also on Saturday because that's when everybody is most lax in Israel. So if they're going to do it at least soon, like immediately, then it would be sometime tonight in the next few hours. Otherwise, they'd have to wait till next weekend. But if we go another couple weeks after this threat and they don't actually do anything, then we're going to, kind of have to draw the conclusion that they're just leaving all of their like supporters and their cheerleaders out to dry, which they might do since they already have the instability issue internally for quite a number of reasons. They might actually be reaching the point where they're actually willing to just they've already let Hamas go. They might actually just let Hezbollah go. They might let the Houthis go. They might just let it all go and not really care about anything other than self-preservation for their nation state, which is at risk again because of internal issues. But I could be wrong, and they could flip on a dime and decide they're just going to go all in. But we won't know until either a few hours from now or a week or two from now, at which point, then they're backing out. While we're getting uncertain about the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, has become pretty solidified because they're doing the whole pre-invasion massive air campaign thing now. No longer, a couple airstrikes a night, no longer a dozen airstrikes a night. Now they're doing 200 to as many as 300 airstrikes per night. And uh, they had done as many as 100 already tonight so far before we saw those new things on that thread just a few minutes ago, which means obviously they've done even more. So they've been keeping this up for over a week now, which is something you do in the lead up. I think how long was our air campaign in Iraq before invading, and in southern Iraq and Kuwait before liberating Kuwait way back in Gulf One? Also, I think we did 3 or 4 weeks. I think that's what we did. Actually, what am I doing? Look that up. Gulf War air campaign. How long did that last? All right, that's okay. The whole Gulf War took place from 17 January to 23rd of February. Or is it saying the okay? When did the actual invasion into the or sorry the counter invasion into Kuwait start? Hold on. Gulf War. Switch that over to. Oh no, okay. 28th of February was the successful liberation. Okay. Oh yeah. All right. Never mind. I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. How much we steamrolled, and I forgot the ground campaign only lasted like 5 days. So that was like part of the reference of like what we thought we were going to see Russia do in Ukraine before we ended up seeing Russia, uh, you know, drink a bottle of like 100% alcohol before walking, head on naked into a bonfire. So then the air campaign, so that would be 5 weeks. Okay, 5 weeks, 5 week. So it's been 1 week already. So if we just assume that the IDF is going to do like the same amount or heaviness of it, then the invasion would theoretically begin around like Halloween. But also, Lebanon is, a much smaller area. And essentially, since it's primarily southern Lebanon, that's an even smaller area. So, and Hezbollah doesn't have as much as the Iraqi military did. So, there's not as much to bomb out there. So, it might last shorter. It might only last like maybe 3 weeks. But the invasion itself would still not like happen, tomorrow or whatever. There was a thing on Twitter this morning where like people were for some reason expecting the invasion to start tomorrow. I am going to press the 101% doubt button on that. Tomorrow is not a thing. It's going to take like a couple weeks at least, even absent of however long the air campaign lasts, because Israel does have to gather up the hundreds of thousands of reservist troops they just reactivated and assemble all that stuff up on the northern border. They have several divisions assembled up there already, but if they're actually doing the invasion, then they're going to need a lot more stuff and manpower. So they just started that either yesterday or the day before. So that's in progress. That is ongoing. The assembly and readiness thing. The air campaign has gone on for 1 week now. So theoretically, between 3 to 5 weeks, that might last, and that would put the ground invasion towards the end of October. Uh, unless like I suspect, it doesn't take as much to hammer out everything here. The air campaign might stop sooner, but the ground invasion might still wait a little bit past that. And then we see how that goes, because the Islamic resistance, regardless of what Iran does, whether Iran launches ballistic missiles at Israel or not, the Islamic resistance, Islamic revolution, whatever its name is this particular week, which isn't too big. It's like 40,000 dudes, I think, in Syria, said that they will flood across the border into Lebanon and join the fight. Uh, Assad, you know, said he stands with Hezbollah, but he's not actually physically going to do anything because he knows Israel would immediately wipe and end him, no matter how much whatever force Russia has there tries to protect him, or however much Russia tries to threaten Israel into not like dealing with Assad. If Assad actually like helped Hezbollah directly, the IDF would just immediately decapitate the Syrian regime, and effectively stamp on what's remains of Syria's military. Since they don't have much left, anyways, that's why they kind of rely on Russia to do their terror bombing in, places like Hama and Idlib and stuff. So Israel would be like the one person, probably other than Polska, who would like not really care, no matter what like Russia like threatens to do to them for any particular action. Israel would be like probably the one other country that like does not care 1%. All right. Now that I've gone on like 20 minutes more than I was assuming I will, that's where we're gonna have to stop it soon. So if you follow my Twitter, apart from like cat and animal charity retweets, who you should give your money to rather than giving it to me, uh, I will on my Twitter now be randomly daily posting just like random graphs of some sorts or like energy and resource, like single updates that would otherwise be like a 30-second video. And on, so that's what my Twitter will be for. I've decided to compartmentalize like my social media accounts. So Instagram here, this is where you go to see my photography. So I'm putting up like some of my best pieces there. You can go to Twitter for cat and animal charity retweets and occasional graph postings each day. And then obviously you come here for streams and videos. Copy. Uh, oh well, yeah. You said you were having issues though, right, Josh? I mean, I thought it was only power issues, but Uh, I thought it was only power issues, but I guess it might be internet issues too. Uh, we haven't uh, we haven't had anything here. I mean, the wind from the outer part of the hurricane was like pretty strong last night, but it didn't do anything. Did it actually like did like you guys get flooded out over there or something? Because you're only like a few miles away. uh, World War III starting? No. As I have said before, uh, there is not enough severity. Like people trying to keep putting that hashtag out really have like lost touch on the like extremity, the like the severe enormity of World Wars One and Two. There are isolated conflicts that might expand. Particularly, this one is the one that has like the real chance. And then there's like other random things that might happen, like Ethiopia trying to invade Somalia. Rwanda and Uganda are already invading the Congo, but no one has cared so far. Venezuela might invade Guyana. The biggest portion is this that's upcoming. Again, next year would be their best chance to try it. They might delay up until 2027. If they delay further than that, then they're really stupid and they've blown their chance completely. But it it would, for one, it would never actually look like the previous two. Like the best you would see is a lot of stuff happening that's not really connected, because both times before there were like, remember, there were definitive sides. There were global, like actual, sides and these big waving front lines across entire continents that were like ebbing back and forth, except for the Western Front in World War One. That was completely stagnant. But and over here too in World War Two, ebbing up and down across the continent. That's not something you're going to see again. That's not happening. Uh, you know, if if this were to go full into an actual broader, if Iran actually decides to not care about its actual statist integrity anymore and goes all out in this, however quickly that would be over for them. If that occurs at the same time as the Ukraine conflict is still going on, and while the Taiwan invasion is going on, but Iran would have to wait at least a whole year until next fall to get involved with anything before that happens to do that at the same time. If those three are all ongoing at the same time, and this one, the Middle East, actually gets big, uh, and we'll say, I don't know, one other thing, it also happens, like Ethiopia does invade Somalia, or Venezuela actually tries for Guyana. If all that happens and is concurrently at one moment, ongoing in the same moment, no matter how brief, I will give you the green light to officially call that World War III, even though it will really never. It's not gonna be what the Call of Duty games tried to sell you on. Like actually, I'm not sorry for saying that, obviously, but sorry, not sorry, but Call of Duty isn't real life. You're not getting that. Uh, you're gonna have to go back through or go back on the time slider to the beginning of the stream. As I'm not going through a repeat since it's about time. I'm supposed to be in a Discord call soon. Yeah, I definitely agree about that. But I am pretty sure you can't do the unilateral withdrawal. That is a Congress thing. I'm just not sure which approval level is required, whether it's the 51 or whether it's the 2/3. And thank you for the compliments, Emil. One of the people on the Patreon map, I believe, just under a different name, along with Josh, obviously. You have Canada, I think, since the Patreon map is and the Patreon tiers are based on oil exporters or levels of oil exporters. Canada is a decently sized oil exporter, along with Kazakhstan. So you got Canada, Josh got Kazakhstan. And then there's the Persian Gulf tier exporter, which I was getting excited. We had almost the whole Persian Gulf filled up, but two or three people left recently. That's going to be it for this one then, since I have to get going. Unless anybody is going to say or ask anything else in the next 30 seconds, since I'll wait for the time delay while I take another sip of water. Oops, no, not that water, this water. Also haven't seen uh also haven't seen in the comments Wolf again for a while. My most likely based on the name German descendant Brazilian viewer, one of the formerly frequent commenters, but I've been kind of worried ever since those big floods down in the south. For some reason, I thought he lived up north, but I'm hoping he didn't drown or something during that flooding down in southern Brazil. All right, doesn't look like anything else, so that's going to be where we end it this time. I will see everybody around sometime next week, stream wise. If otherwise, there'll be videos in between now and then. But thank you for showing up, and see ya.